It's Wednesday evening, and we're back with you live on the Trampled Underfoot podcast show. Your hosts are Mark Lindsay and Eloy Escajedo, and we usually do it on Tuesday, but we're here today because we had outages, and that's how that goes.
Yeah,
So
it's like, 30 minutes before we're going to go live, maybe 45 minutes before we're going to go live. I'm sitting here jazzing myself up, getting ready to go. And all of a sudden, poof, power said, "Nope, show's over. I'm tired. Bye."
you were slapped back into the Stone Age. Well, just not really because you had your cell phone, but you
Yeah.
from one moment to the next, the electric company or whatever the problem was sent your butt back to like medieval frickin' I don't know where.
Yeah. To the 1990s. Before all this newfangled internet stuff come along, you know, it was just poof, nothing. And I'm like, well, damn. So after a bit of messaging on the phone back and forth and everything, let's just postpone it till tomorrow. Okay, fine.
I
So,
could
but
tell that
we're
you're
good now. But you know what? This is the fifth time this has happened this summer. And I'm starting to wonder, you know what? If I was this erratic when it came to bill paying, they'd have words for me.
I could
You
tell
know,
that your typing replies
Mhm.
was a little bit different than when you do normal because you're probably working with a smaller little thing.
But yeah, I
I
mean,
could tell.
that's what I would say. Fat fingers and those little buttons just are not good. I can't use my thumb because if I use my thumb covers four buttons, and I never know which one of them is going to engage.
Yeah, but
So,
I could tell the difference between you on your regular system
uh,
and you in a limited circumstance system. I could see the, but then again, I knew beforehand. But it's funny because it goes to that we were saying, or that you've said in the past,
mhm,
where like you like a workstation,
uh-huh,
I like a workstation,
mhm.
and the obvious benefits are obvious, like a big screen and
The full size keyboard.
yeah, exactly. So I don't understand. Like for instance, I'll ask you this: did you yesterday, since you had that issue, did you, I don't know, watch some videos on your phone or this or that?
No, I didn't watch any videos on my phone. I went out and talked to my wife. We went
It's
around, walked around out in the yard, and did some stuff outside.
it's
We
not
know we
pleasurable.
normally do that anyway, but it's just we normally don't do it at that time.
Why would you walk outside to? Let me. I'm going to ask you this because we live in the future right now.
Mhm.
Why would you walk with Linda outside when you can call her on a face chat thing and independently in the two different rooms of the house be there? I mean, why do that?
Well, I know you're playing devil's advocate, but basically, she's put a lot of work into her flower garden, and she wanted to show off a few things. So
See,
it's
she
like,
could
yeah,
she could literally instead no, you could go to the extreme. She
mm-hmm.
could go to Google Earth
Mm-hmm.
and zoom in, take a screenshot of her garden,
Mm-hmm.
and then email it to you,
Yes, she could, but she
even
couldn't.
though it's
But
right
she
there.
but she couldn't say, "Smell this."
What?
You've not heard the sometimes you got to stop and smell the roses.
Mm.
Can't do that on a photograph, you know.
Yeah, that's true. There's no scratch and sniff.
No,
And in some photographs from the 90s
that's a good thing. Yes.
and from some of those unauthorized duplicates that the drugstore usually kept behind the counter, that's a
Yeah,
good thing.
absolutely. So, it's yeah.
I
Linda
wonder
says
if 200.
Linda says because we have flowers, growing things. Eloy has flowers. He has a lot of flowers.
I have weeds.
Well, we haven't had a true lawn in years. This is weeds holding hands, you know. But hopefully next year I'm going to get a lawn put in. You notice how I didn't say I'm going to put in a lawn. I said I'm going to get a lawn put in.
Yeah.
It's always been the case with me. The hardest part of do it yourself is knowing when not to. But the older I get, the easier it is to make that decision. Is it now I can look at the yard and go, yeah, I ain't doing that. I'm going to pay somebody to come and put the lawn in.
What are your thoughts of what are your thoughts over I don't know what the word is for it, but let's call it would it be astroturf?
Yeah,
The
artificial turf.
yeah. What's your take on that? Do you like it?
I think it has its place. I don't like it for, well, okay, first of all, what's the purpose of a lawn? What's the purpose of grass? Around here, it's erosion and defensible space. A green lawn is less likely to catch on fire than dry weeds. And fire is a big concern out here. So, and also we get our share of wind, and wind erosion is a thing. So I think artificial turf has its place, but not in my yard, I don't think.
It reminds me when I think of it
Mhm.
of mini golf courses
Yeah,
where they even have fake trees and like miniatures and it's like
yeah.
it also reminds me of those like Raising Arizona type movies where
Mhm.
there's a family in the desert somewhere, let's say,
Yeah.
and everything's like brown and but behind their house they have like a they staked in that little thing and then the flamingos sitting there or something
Yeah.
like that. Um, we have something here in Sweetwater like that.
Mhm.
Well, none of that, just the astroturf.
Mhm.
And along our canal, years ago, it used to be pine needles that would fall and sit there.
Yeah.
They did away with that and the trees. They planted other type of trees, and then they planted grass.
Mhm.
But after a while, or like decades, the grass started being replaced with astroturf, so that I guess not as much maintenance or whatever.
I guess, yeah.
Well, that's the thing, I guess, is the thing, because what ends up happening is I'm going to be a little bit uncouth here, or a lot. I don't know. Maybe not. It's just a word. But now, landmines or doggy turdies
Uh-huh.
sit and decompose above ground as opposed to
Breaking
filtering.
down into the ground, yeah.
Right. So as I walk Vigo, he's got a size. He's not
Mhm.
huge.
Mhm.
There's some huge dogs around here, and dude, the piles are like horse-sized piles. And as I'm walking around,
Well,
Mark, I'm like, holy smoke!
well, I know it's used a lot even by homeowners in like Las Vegas. But you got to remember, Las Vegas is it's a pretty intense desert. I mean, it's not as bad as some place like Phoenix, but there's a lot of money. I mean, water is hard to come by in those places, and folks want a nice looking yard, but it takes a ton of water to keep a lawn green. I mean, the whole time we lived in Nevada, we didn't have a lawn. And it's just not economically feasible to keep paying that kind of money to water a lawn.
Yeah.
So, they use it quite a bit down there. Up here, not so much. And then again, I also have a problem with surrounding my house full of or with something that's that flammable. Yeah, they do sometimes fire treat it so that it's fire resistant, but the fire up here in the Pacific Northwest is a very real threat, and it's something that you got to pay attention to and watch out for. So having a green lawn is a little bit of defensible space. And that's a big key phrase out here, defensible space. Defensible space, 100 yards around your house. It needs to be something that you can, that is clear of underbrush and understory, as they call it, that you could conceivably fight a fire should a fire start somewhere close to you. So, you know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
right
It's
now,
weird though. The astroturf, it's
mhm.
slightly weird because it really does remind me of little mini golf or whatnot.
Yeah, same here. for pathways and things like that, it's fine. It has its place.
There is a
But
fake flamingo sort of that vibe. I
mhm,
don't even know where to place it, but it's sort of that kind of that movie vibe of like Raising
mhm.
Arizona or something like that.
Raising Arizona, yeah. I mean, you expect to see the guy out there with the inflatable pool and the lawn chair and the Hawaiian shirt with
Yeah,
short Bermuda shorts
that's exactly it.
and the Gilligan hat.
Yeah, and then the lawn chair, and then the lady tanning and with one of those umbrella drinks,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
doesn't match anything like some sort of seasonal
Hmm.
um, oceanside resort. But yet it's a weird whole thing.
Yeah.
So let me tell you what happened to me.
Okay, go ahead.
I did write a little post on it, but um, the other night, late in the evening, I went to the gas station. There was a guy customer and the lady behind the counter. As I got in, she said, "If are you paying with cash or credit? Because the machine's down."
Hmm.
I said, "Well, I'll pay with cash." And she said, "Yeah, because the machine is down." She repeated, and I said, "But would it be up to pay?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm working on that." And so I went and got some candy.
Hmm.
Problem we started with today, anyhow, um, behind the scenes. And I walked there and wait, and then the guy was speaking Spanish to her,
Hmm.
and then he turns to me and he says, "Hey, do you have an app that blah blah blah? I can send you money, and you can pay for my things so I can leave." I said, I don't have an app like that." So okay, and just for kindness and conversation of the moment while we're waiting, I said, "Oh, you speak English and a little bit of Spanish." It was broken Spanish and broken English. "Do you have another language that you speak?" Just as a little moment.
Hmm.
"No, I speak French too. I'm from Haiti." So, "Oh, Haiti. Oh, okay, yeah. This, and that." And I said, "I heard on the news not too long ago that there's some instability, politically speaking, and even reports of cannibalism. Do you know anything about that? I mean, just."
Hmm.
And he says to me, "What news?" He says, "On the news." "What cannibalism?" I said, "Just a report." And I saw him getting defensive, and I said, "Listen, I'm not trying to offend. Just having polite conversation while we wait for this.
Hmm.
It's not my intention." But he kept going, and then he said, "You know, you should have asked something nice. You people, you people,
Hmm. Red flag number two.
you people
Hmm.
think that we are stupid." And I said, "What people?" I said, "What people?"
Hmm.
He says, "Yeah, you people, you people." I said, I like, I know he was making a delineation of sorts,
Hmm.
very boldly, but all I could think of is like, "What people? Explain yourself." Like, uh-huh. And he said, "Yeah, you people, just like that guy, you people have um cannibals too." I
What are
said,
you talking about, dude?
"Well, yeah." Now I'm like, "What the hell?" And I turn, I'm like this, and he says, "Yeah, that guy on Netflix." And then my little calculator went, I mean, it's the whole thing is stupid already, but my
Hmm.
brain went, and I said, "Do you mean because there's a show on Netflix? Do you mean Dahmer? There's a show about Dahmer. I've not
Jeffrey
watched it
Dahmer, yeah.
because it's a little bit macabre in my opinion.
It's a lot macabre, yeah.
Yeah, I can watch zombie movies and this and that, and you could argue that macabre too, but that's fantasy stuff, like
Yeah.
whatever. But this is real life, and I'm not. It's something that I would. But anyways, I knew that the movie exists or whatever, the series or whatever. And I said, "You mean Dahmer?" And he says, "Yeah, that's that guy. You people have that. You people and this and that." And he kept going with that all that. And I was like, "Holy smokes! What the heck do we have here?" Um, and then the machine finally got up again. He
Booted, yeah.
paid. He paid for his crap, and then as he's walking out,
Hmm.
he says, "Have a nice night, Dahmer," and he died. And I was like, "Holy smokes! What the hell?" Okay, so here's let me just so that on its own is one thing. Well, here's the thing. In the context of Miami,
Hmm.
this type of thinking, which might be found in other parts of the country,
Hmm.
depending on the variations that exist in other parts, but Miami is a very multicultural place
Hmm.
where those divisive, solid drawn lines
Hmm.
don't really work well.
Hmm.
Um, because there's a lot of cultural influx in certain ways with a lot of Hispanic, so it doesn't land
Hmm.
that kind of thing. I'm not saying that he's not nuts. He's obviously he's out of his rockers,
Hmm.
but it got me to thinking that these nationwide notions, he's off his rockers anyhow, but of using these divisive lines, it just doesn't land here. BLM tried to do that here years ago. I even filmed some of it.
Yeah.
Came and protected our area of Sweetwater. Um, they tried that, but it doesn't match in
Hmm.
Miami. It just simply doesn't like it really doesn't match because there's no homogeneous one thing or the other that you can say us and them. Yes, you can nitpick
Hmm.
and people do, but you get my point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's so weird, Mark, and it has to do with more people coming from other parts um into an
Well,
area that doesn't have the same signals. Um People here don't have the same as the rest of the country or many other parts of the country. They don't have the same little cultural notions where things like that or similar things like that that might be controversial or this or that about one group or
so
it doesn't apply here as well.
would it be safe to say that that area is so interconnected? There are so many mixtures that have basically come together to create Miami or the entire area,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
that there really is no you people.
Well, yeah, you can find it in little subtle ways. Like, let's say you have, I'm using this as an example. It doesn't
Okay.
mean that it's, but like you can find, like, let's say a Cuban guy and then a Puerto Rican guy, and maybe choice words are exchanged in one specific
Well, yeah,
scenario.
I mean, not everybody gets along, sure.
Right. But on the other side, you have Puerto Ricans and Cubans marrying
Hmm.
or friends, or you know someone that knows someone and you go to a
Yeah.
cookout or at the beach or whatever. And so it's too, like what, just like what you said, it's too intermingled
Hmm.
to to sort of point on that level
Yeah.
that this guy was
Well,
crazily suggesting or whatnot.
well, so is that why that kind of stood out to you
Yeah,
so vividly? It's like you
yeah.
people, what the hell are you talking about?
Well, yeah, because he was placing me in the category of the them.
Hmm.
Me, he was trying. He was basically doing a black and white. He
Hmm.
was doing a black and white.
Hmm.
Um, and that doesn't work here very well
Hmm.
because of many reasons. And it doesn't work here very well. But he was applying it,
Hmm.
and it's like that made me
Yeah.
think. Well, wait a second. You know, obviously he's not from around here.
Yeah.
That's the one thing because you can very well have any number of. It's not a priority, you know, for people, and I don't know that it is other places, but like that's not the narrative around here.
Yeah.
Only in little pockets and this and that. But his behavior, apart from that, That's what I thought of in terms of why he chose what he did. But he sounded just nuts.
Yeah.
He just sounded nuts. Um, and so, but it was interesting because I did go later and say, well, maybe questioning myself, maybe I touched on something, and in fact, his country is in crisis currently.
They have been for years.
There's guerrilla factions,
Hmm.
and what I did find is that there's three videos of the cannibalism bit,
Hmm.
but many sites are reporting that no, they're not valid.
Hmm.
But there's been notions of cannibalism, and some people are
Yeah.
suggesting all sorts of things. But the point is not that. The point is that if I can find it on the news and I've heard of it before, it's reasonable. I was operating within reason, and then I thought to myself, maybe I touched a nerve. And in the context of what his country's going through, and maybe what other people have told him, he might just lump everybody in,
Yeah.
and maybe that was his reaction, because he says, "Oh, not again," something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. These
so
Americans, maybe that was the you people. These Americans.
um,
Yeah. Well, when I went into the Army the first time in 1982, my first platoon sergeant was from Haiti. And I didn't know anything about the country, didn't know anything about it. And I lived a pretty sheltered life on the West Coast. Grew up in a tumultuous time on the West Coast, but I, my worldview was basically my backyard, you know. And talking to him just simply because I didn't know anything about the country, he basically figured that was his only way out was to join the army and get the hell out of there because he saw no other way. And he brought his entire family after he made enough money to get them a place. He brought his entire family out of there because that was the only way he could see to do it. And he was telling me stories about very similar things. And this is back in 82, 83, 84. So, you know, it was that place has been a mess for a long, long, long time.
he even said that in the middle of that. He
Mm,
said, we've been free. We threw people out. We've been free since 1840 something or whatever he said." And I've read in the past. It's not like I focused on it, but I know that they kicked the French up and down, left and right, and they
mm,
took off.
mm,
Many of them settled in Cuba and this and that, whatever, Puerto Rico and this and that. So the French
mm,
did exit
mm.
and relocate in other more less
Less hostile areas. Yeah.
areas. So they did, but he even threw that in. He threw the kitchen sink in of the
Mm,
concept of us and them. Let's put it that way.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's it's
It's,
it's a terrible place to sit. And in fact, just the one thing that what I was wanting to go with while we waited for the register was first, in exchange,
yeah.
listen to what
Any
he had to say.
truth to this stuff that I'm hearing? I mean,
Right. And then follow it with my only reference point, which is my father in the 60s,
mhm.
with Haitian exiles and Cuban exiles, set up camp in the Keys to actually go to Haiti
Mhm.
and liberate, and remove Papa Doc de Valle.
Yeah.
But I couldn't even get to that because he was set on the
You people.
negative,
Yeah.
of judging what's in front of you based on the all ticking all the boxes. But
So basically when you were asking him questions, he thought you were making accusations.
yeah,
Sounds like it to me anyway.
and he said he's smart various times. And I was like,
Oh, that's not in question here. We're not asking about that. But,
right, exactly. So he already had a narrative going in his
yeah.
brain, and so basically, you can't, and anyone that interacts with this person,
Hmm.
if that's the standard that they're navigating life with,
Yeah.
um, it's useless. It's useless.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
very weird situation, and there's more people here. Anyways, to round that up, there's more people here
Hmm.
from other parts. They don't understand the local temperaments,
Hmm.
generalized, which do not focus on such things, and they haven't for over half a century here in Miami. Over half a century. Yes, there's tensions here and there in certain cases, like any other place,
Sure.
but the theme, the undergirding sort of support system of the place has, I would say, little to do
Hmm.
with anything racial,
Hmm.
although that may exist, and there could be examples brought up, but more to do with status.
Hmm.
More to do,
Economic status, that kind of thing.
yeah, more to
Yeah.
do with hey man, you're on the move, you're a mover and shaker. Doesn't matter the other part, broadly speaking, I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing. So the more people in an area, there's all these little signals that get jumbled up, and it got me to thinking to other questions. Just that one incident
Yeah.
allowed me to think, put the example out, and to think other scenarios. If you have a small Mayberry
Well.
and you have people coming in,
Hmm.
um, regardless of anything besides,
Hmm.
um, little differences in interactions cause a little bit of that strain or a lot of it, depending. So there's a lot of reasonable, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
with the interplay of human beings with different growing up styles.
Well, also different cultures. You're you, it never got to it, but you assume he was fairly new. He hadn't been in the States long.
He did say that he had come here 8 years ago.
Okay, so that's long enough. Then this wouldn't be part of it. But one thing I will say, the habit or the proclivity for Americans to make small talk, especially in line waiting for something to happen, to just start talking to the neighbor, you know, that is an American thing. You will not find that in Europe. That just doesn't happen. People will sit next to each other side by side on a bus or in a train or waiting in line and never acknowledge the other's presence. And for you to just start talking to them, in most cases, is looked at as strange. It's odd. It's weird.
No, but
If
he
if you are asking direct, excuse me, sir, is this the right bus to go here? That's something different entirely. That's perfectly acceptable. But just to start small talking or what have you is strange. But now, if he's been here 8 years, he's probably used to that by now.
and by the way, he's the one that engaged me first by asking if I had a certain application to do some doohickey, this
Yeah,
that. And it's like, and by the way, even if I had the application,
I
guess what
wouldn't do
my
it.
answer would have been?
Yeah, no.
I mean, it's like, dude, get a clue, get a clue.
Mm.
But I didn't have any negativity until I saw a narrative shift in a
Yeah,
weird
like you were
direct.
accusing him directly of doing something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, and he had no
yeah.
pause to reverse the deal on my butt.
Did that reverse Uno card on you? Yeah, Jamie just backed me up. Agreed, Mark. Someone says hello on the train, I'd think they're going to rob me. Even if they had a smile, Jamie. Hi, how you doing? I saw you on YouTube, Jamie Page, right?
Dockrell said that it's still a safe assumption that if a weird news story comes out, it happened in Florida, like robbing a drive-through with an alligator. Well, that's Actually, if I heard that story, you know what? I wouldn't be shocked. But and by the way, a lot of those stories do happen in Miami, so you're right on that note. Um,
Wait. Stop right there. Beep, beep, beep. Back the truck up. Are you telling me that somebody actually robbed something with an alligator?
no, but if it did,
Okay.
if it did, he was just saying like, but if it did happen, do you think people in Miami would be shocked? No, they'd talk about it, but
Hmm.
they really wouldn't be very shocked because there's a lot of stuff there's a lot of people here and a lot of weird stuff happens and everybody's getting their freak on and doing all sorts of stuff. So that is true. That is a fair thing to put out there, even though he was joking. Who knows how serious he was about it, but it's true. Um, how do how can one fit that into the big cake that's being baked right now? It's a difficult thing. The more people, the more variations of stuff that can happen or go wrong. And so that's another thing, Mark. That's another thing and with what Doc, in the context of more people and more stuff and this and that, I walk the streets. I walk alone.
Hmm.
I walk the streets with Vigo at night
Hmm.
because there's less people around.
Sure.
But even now, I mean, but now, even at night, there's more people. So that increases the potential of interactions, whether good or bad,
Hmm.
including bad, because you don't know who the heck the other person and what the heck's going on in their brain.
No, you don't.
So, so
Especially at night after dark. I mean, that's when the freaks come out.
yeah, so it's something to that I keep in mind. But then again, you can't stop doing the things you could. But at the same time, it's like, come on. So what happened?
Dockrell brought references. February 10th, 2016, Joshua James, 24, threw a 3.5 foot alligator through a Palm Beach County Wendy's drive through window. Y'all scan this one. I'll have you another one in a couple of minutes. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff here. There's a lot of people coming from all sorts of you. And by the way, one other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, today I was at the Sedanos, which is a Spanish supermarket.
Uh-huh.
I didn't want to go to the Publix because it's outside the bounds of the thing,
Mm-hmm.
and so I said, we'll just stop. And I got some coffee and I don't know what else. But I get in line and there's this old guy right
Uh-huh.
behind me, and he's talking to me, incredibly involved. And so without me have ever turned around, and I turn around, it's this old Cuban gentleman looking at prices of the things on the aisles and saying, "Can you believe the prices on this and that?" Out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
I already knew before turning my head, just listening to his tone and his accent, that he's a Cuban guy. And I turned around and I see this old gentleman here talking, and that's what Cuban people. That's typical of other places and other things. But just like you were saying, an American, it's a cross
Mm-hmm.
hemispheric situation too. That Cubans do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, did you know Cubans do? Um,
I just assumed, but then again, you know what they say about assumptions.
but in fact, on that note, I'll be right back. Just kidding. That was bad. That was not right on so many levels. If we could only erase
I,
that in
I
any event.
I would say drop it, but never mind. See?
Whoa! Hey,
Well,
swipe left.
huh? Jamie says, I went into a supermarket last week and realized I'm not a people person. You act like that was the first time you've been in a supermarket, Jamie. I mean, I used to be kind of a people person because I've worked in customer service a lot, off and on. But the more I did that, the less I liked it. And that was simply because I can't believe some people. I mean, I don't dislike people, in general. I just dislike being at a disadvantage in that they're free to come and go and do what they want. I'm stuck there for 8 hours a day. So, I may not care what you're talking to me about. I may not care about what you're doing, but it's my job to get you the stuff you need to get that and get you the hell out of my store so I can move on to the next customer.
Yeah, there's a
So,
propensity for people to be either people, or more introverted, extroverted, introverted.
mhm,
Um, and that's scenario based too at one level.
yeah.
So there's that too. I mean, and there's people that have the ability but
Mhm,
prefer not to interact
yeah.
as much. I would say Jamie Page, according to my thing. I mean, I remember him being very supportive and of the community back in the day. Many people were, but speaking on Jamie Page, and he always made an effort to bring people together,
Mhm,
um, to focus on a project or focus on concepts and ideas and such. So
mhm,
my impressions of Jamie, and by the way, one thing about impressions that others may have of you is that you really don't know the full picture that others have. But I do, of my friends, I have an overview of
yeah.
pleasantry. Um, and we're human too. I mean, it's not like,
And
but the point is that I would categorize Jamie Page roughly, eh, as sort of a people person,
but there's a
contrary to what he thinks.
difference. But there's a difference. You see if you agree with me or not. There's a difference in our interactions here online.
Keep talking. Let me just fix my audio
Oh, okay.
because
There's a
the little mic got screwed up.
there's a
Oh,
difference between our interactions online and interactions face to face.
yeah,
You know,
yep.
um, you're in your house working on your audio right now, but you're not clogging up the aisle while I'm trying to get to the loaf of bread 3 spots behind you. You know, you're not standing there with your cart sideways in the middle of the aisle going, which ranch dressing do I want? I don't know. I mean, like, get out of the way.
Let me pause you for 1 second and
So,
ask you this question:
all right, go ahead.
Are you the type of person that when you're in that scenario
Hmm.
in the aisle and you're looking at something and somebody, there's two options. Somebody, well, there may be more, but whatever. And somebody's coming. Do you give access because you're still involved in a look, or do you hold ground and they have to either stop next to you and also hover, or walk around, or something other? What
Well,
do you?
as far as me being in the middle of the way, I go out of my way to stay out of the way. I try to stay. You're taught as an infant from the time you are a baby, stay to the right. Stay to the right, stay out of so I walk down the aisle this way so you can come back this way. We're taught that from birth.
That is true.
All right, so I try to stay off to the side, and if I see somebody is trying to get to something and my cart's right in the way, I'll either move forward or back up if I've got room to maneuver.
Just a side note. A side note. I'm sorry for just, but that's true. I usually enter the aisles and I'm hugging the right hand side.
You're taught that as a kid.
If I see something on the left hand side, I will cross the lane.
Mhm.
There's no lane to cross, but you get the point. I will do that, but usually I'm doing just what you're saying.
You walk into the mall, you head for the escalators. The escalators going up, you want to go upstairs. The escalator going upstairs is on the right. When you're coming back down, the escalator going down is on the right.
Except that Dolphin Mall here in Miami, it's the other way around. But
Well,
whatever.
when you go to walk upstairs, you go up to the right.
Hmm.
People coming down are on your left, but it's their right. You're taught from birth to stay to the right. So I do. if I come up on somebody who's got their cart sideways, blocking the aisle with that blank look on her face, was that Honey Nut Cheerios or regular Cheerios? I'll say, excuse me, can I get past you real quick? You know, and oh yeah, they'll usually just, oh okay, yeah,
Ha-
sorry, and then
Have
I
you
zip on past.
have you ever said, "Move your crap"?
No, not yet. I've thought about it, but not yet.
You have thought about it because I have
Oh,
thought
I've
about
thought
it.
about it. Well, let me ask you this about that. Have you ever come across the same person in like three separate aisles
Yes,
doing the
they are.
same BS?
They're following it's almost like they're following you,
Yeah,
or vice versa.
yeah.
Yeah,
They came in this way and you came in that way. So they're coming up the aisle this direction and you guys are meeting every three aisles. And
yeah.
it's like,
They're
dude.
they're operating under all the wrong signals opposed to your
Mhm.
maneuvering. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I try to be aware that I'm not the only person in the world. And you can't help it. You're in a public place. You're going to be in somebody's way sooner or later. I just try to reduce it as much as I can because I was taught to be polite. And that's what polite people do. If somebody needs something and I'm standing in front of it, I'll get out of the way, you know, because
Yeah,
I've been that guy who wants that can of coffee over there and I can't get it because your shopping cart's in the way.
I do the same exact thing, Mark.
But I'm not afraid to say, excuse me, can I get to that real quick, please? You know,
Yeah, I do the same thing. I generally move out of the way because they must know what they're looking for. They must have it. But sometimes I move out of the way and they just stand right there in front of me, like I'm looking
mhm,
at the back of their skull, and
yeah.
I'll actually sit there for a moment and say, "Another one, uneffing believable." Like
Yeah.
I'll think that another one, and so
Mhm.
then I'll move. Let me turn off the light because now I got blinking.
No,
We've got blinking.
I thought you were having a disco show or something, man.
We've got blinking.
See,
Abraham Blinken.
yep. Jamie says stand on the left in the London Underground. You're getting pushed down the escalator. Uh-huh. Well, then I don't want to get into that discussion. But see, now Jamie, even you're taught to stay to the right on an escalator or on the staircase or walking up the aisle. So this is a universal thing. Okay. All right. Let's see.
Jamie
Jim
Page.
Dockrell.
Jamie Page should be made the Duke of Earl.
Ah, there we go.
Duke,
Uh,
Duke, Duke. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Jim Dockrell says it seems when you move out of one person's way, you get in the way of another. Sometimes there's no way. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I have a self-deprecating way of doing that. Going, I'm in everybody's way, y'all. Sorry, let me get myself out the road and just I'll move out the way, and then grab what I need.
Move out the way, old Dan Tucker.
Exactly.
It's a little too late to get your
Now,
supper.
Jamie says yes, exactly. They are trained state of the right, state of the right. So how come you people drive on the left?
You people. See, that's the
You
problem.
people.
That's the
You
problem right
people.
there. See what went on right there. Oh, and by the way, I threw in what was it? Duke of Earl. I'm
Mhm,
just curious
mhm.
if
Gene
Jamie.
Chandler, by the way.
What's that?
Gene Chandler, by the way. Go ahead.
I'm just curious if Jamie Page, on his side of the river, um, lake, oh no, pond.
Mhm.
I'm curious if on his side of the Atlantic, he knows that reference point himself of Duke of Earl. I'm curious
I'm
because,
sure they had the song over there, but it's pretty old.
well, that's why I'm talking about era.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
Because I
Okay.
would listen to oldies. Without that, I would not know. So I'm curious for him to reply if he knows the reference point Duke of Earl.
Yeah. And he has no idea why they drive on the left. Hey,
Or
whatever.
how about Sir Duke?
He knows the Duke of York song, the Grand Old Duke of York. He had 10,000 men. He marched them up the hill and he marched them down again.
You should look up Jamie Page when you get a chance. The Duke of Earl.
It's a song from the 50s.
I like it.
Some of the early rock and roll. That was music I was brought up on. We did this last week.
I also like um this is but whatever, I don't let's just I'm just gonna say. I also like talking about Dukes and this and I mentioned it. I also like Sir Duke.
Mm-hmm.
I like the
Stevie
song.
Wonder.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the double disc album. Powerful.
That
Which is
was
songs in the
Songs in
key.
the Key of Life. Yeah.
Yes. Love it. The whole package is monstrously awesome, in
Mhm.
my opinion. I mean, I'm not the only one that thinks that, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's a
No,
beautifully.
yeah, I will agree. One of the
It's an
best albums.
enjoyable. Mark, have you sat? Because I used to, dude, all the way through. It was such a great time. I would put on my headphones and I would just, and I had so many, and I just enjoyed and enjoyed. And that album, double album, dude, I went through it. I would just stay with it. It
Hmm.
was awesome, dude.
I did that from the time I was about 9 or 10 years old until actually quite recently. Um, about maybe the last,
20 years.
let's say 15 years.
Yep, me too.
It was a big thing to put my headphones on and just put on an album or a cassette or a
And enjoy the hell
CD
out of it.
and just listen
Mhm.
and do whatever while I'm doing that. Sometimes do absolutely nothing.
Well, no, I liked. See, I liked the absolutely nothing. I
Hmm.
liked to put on the headphones, lay
Yeah.
on the bed, and listen to the stereo little noises. And always, I'm learning some new little
Hmm.
noise over here, over there, and enjoying the hell out of it.
Hmm.
It was so cool. It was simplistic compared to all the stuff now, but yeah, dude, that was all. And so that album was one that was like,
That was
wow,
one
dude.
of them. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was really well produced.
Yeah.
What
Well, oh, they're talking about why Brits drive on the left. I just wanted to throw that out there because you would think that if they're taught to drive on the left, everybody would stay to the left. But no, it's stay to the right. I, just one of those little things. I don't know.
according to some maps that I've seen,
Hmm.
supposedly Spain, depending, drives on either or. It depends on the area or whatnot. There's that.
Well, as far as vehicles are concerned, when the first cars, the first automobiles were driven by tillers, they weren't even really, they didn't have steering wheels or anything. That was a new concept developed by a gentleman by the name of Ransom Olds. Yes, the Oldsmobile. He put a steering wheel on. Most vehicles, the driver sat in the middle or up front by himself. And you had a tiller, so you swing your arm either direction. That's how you steered the car. Well, he didn't develop the gearbox, he adapted it to the car. And there were so many controls that were done by hand, they didn't have the same foot pedal layout that we have now. First car to have the foot pedal layout that we use now was a 1912 Cadillac. He moved the steering wheel over to the left side of the car because most people are right handed, and you had to be able to run all these various different controls. So most folks were used to doing that with their right hand.
That makes sense.
And it just never really changed. Most American cars went over to that left hand drive configuration. And then when the foot pedals were standardized, starting with the Cadillac, it just stayed that way and it never changed. Now, why the British and a few other countries, not just the British, but a few other countries as well, why they went with right hand drive, I don't know why. I have no idea.
Hmm.
But it's That's where that came from anyway. Why our controls are on the left side of the car. So yeah, you're right, Jim. The McLaren F1 had a center driver's seat. Yes, and but wasn't made really. I mean, it has a couple of jump seats in the back, but it wasn't really made for. It's not a grocery getter. $1 million supercar to go down to the Publix and get clam chowder.
I've
Hey,
always liked
if I had the money, you know.
I've always liked the idea of those. I would buy one
Mhm,
in the right circuit. I like the idea of those. Like at the zoo or parks, they
mhm,
have rentals for these. Um, they're not bicycles. They're sort of like four seaters or more. They have a little roof on, and you can pedal. But it's like basically a people mover for you and
mhm,
your family. I don't
mhm,
even know what you call them, but I like that. I've imagined smaller versions where you can sit a few people, and I've even
mhm,
imagined them looking like, let's say, a Model T
mhm,
pretend shell, but
mhm.
lightweight, and you can travel around your area and take a pleasant little
Well,
drive pedal.
you are almost in the right area. There are entire communities built around golf carts where passenger cars are not allowed on the street. That's all golf carts. Now, they're allowed off in other areas, but these are communities that are just built for people with golf carts. And some of these people have put 25, 30, $40,000 into a golf cart, and they're pretty elaborate son of a guns.
And
But
it serves a purpose, right?
yeah, I mean, if you're going from here down to the store, hop in the old golf cart, zoom, zip on down, grab your groceries, throw it in the back, zip back home, plug it in, let it charge up. I mean, I'm all for that kind of stuff. A lot of my family thinks that I'm against electric vehicles. I'm not. I think they have their place. I think it's kind of silly to say, let's throw out all of the internal combustion engines and go 100% electric. We haven't got the infrastructure for it. I mean, we're pretty rural out here. I can't tell you of a charging station. I just don't know where they are. I assume there are some around because there are a few electric vehicles. There aren't many, but there are a few. But they have their place. If you're making mainly short trips, you live in town, I think they're the perfect vehicle for you. There's no sense in having a big old huge F-250 when you're going a quarter mile to work, if you work, and a quarter mile home. That's the perfect time to have a little electric car to zip zip, you know.
I like I like the burning of animal byproduct tar being consumed
Liquid
through,
dinosaur.
yeah, being consumed through.
Well, it has its place too. I mean, so it just
Watching
depends on what you're
smokestack.
doing.
What's that?
It just depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
You
Oh yeah.
match the vehicle for your uses, you know.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, I agree with that. If I agree with that, there's other context to it all because
mhm,
there's for a fair amount of people there's an imminent catastrophic potential, let's say,
mhm.
uh, due to the releasing of whatnot into the, so there's all that, and so then people say, well, it would be better this and that, but that's a one of the complicated stories of our time apparently.
And that's one discussion to have because it depends on your worldview. But some people don't even go that far. They don't even need to go that far. They think, what's economically feasible for me? You know, do I really need to try to find a place to park this big old behemoth? And do I really need this big old behemoth when all I do is go to school? I'm just running down to the college where it's going to sit for a few hours and then I'm running back home where I can plug it in. Well, you probably don't need something super, super huge.
No, if it fits for you,
And
it's on a
it
person to person basis.
exactly 100%. So, I'm all for it.
How about those
So,
60s, 1960s? Remember the jetpacks, like the Bionic Man and whatnot,
mm,
$6 million. So he if we all had those, but
crank their
remember all the
handlebar and it just whoosh. Yeah.
you remember all it's just a combustible, that comes
Yeah.
out of that. If we gave everybody a backpack in the United States, see, now that's if a candidate in
Mhm.
some sort of election were to say, and I promise the American public one free backpack for every citizen over the age of 18.
The only problem I ever had with those things is I wondered how they ever flew without setting their pants on fire.
Oh yeah.
You know, how the heck did they fly without setting their drawers on fire? Because you're talking about a backpack with a jet engine on it or a rocket. Every rocket or jet I've ever seen puts out a big old flame. How the hell are your pants not on fire?
Yeah, that's yeah, it doesn't look safe, and there's water spout ones now, or
Yeah,
water spout.
I've seen those. I've
Yeah,
seen those out of like they for some reason Cancun comes to mind. Maybe I'm thinking the wrong resort. It's like a resort town, and there are people out there on those things that a big old giant hose
yeah,
tethering them back to a certain spot. Yeah, now that looks like fun,
yeah. That looks like fun,
but
but it
a
almost
younger
feels
man's game.
well, yeah, and it almost feels like if you slightly move sideways, wouldn't you just drop?
Well, if you're me, yes, you go head first.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. It's like, I
I,
don't know.
I tend to have the gliding characteristics of your average size brick on a good day. And that's just with both feet on the ground. I can't imagine being up like that, holding on to something, shooting out a jet of water behind me.
Yeah, it
It's
just
not
doesn't.
going to end well.
There's now a series of videos that pop up in those side swipe video minis
Mhm. Yeah.
where it's all about not it's not called bungee jump, it's swinging from a tree basically onto a lake or whatnot,
Mhm.
or off the side of a, but you have the rope whatnot, and this
Yeah. The rope swings. Yeah.
the problem I have with those videos, and I have watched them, but it's like, oh, because
Mhm.
they show like let's say a guy that's a bit too heavy, and the tightness of the rope, the elasticity of it and the weight is
Mhm.
just enough so that boulder, the guy rams his butt on the boulder on his way down,
Yeah.
and they're like, ooh, in the video. And so there's a lot of those, or the lady being dragged because the bungee,
Yes.
and it's like, oh no, I can't stand those. They're funny, but at the same time, it's
Yeah.
I can
I don't
feel.
like to watch people getting hurt. Nah. I'm not much for it. So consequently, Linda and I spend a lot of time sending videos back and forth of dogs and cats doing goofy stuff. Like there was one video I sent Linda a video. It was like a minute and a half long of nothing but this dog from various angles running out of the house and diving running as fast as he or she could and just diving head first into a big old mountain of leaves
Yeah,
that some dude had raked up in the front yard.
I seen that.
I could watch that for hours. That's just a demonstration of the joy of life.
They just fly in midair and just land right
And
in.
dive about 10 feet away and just wham into
There,
those leaves.
there's
Tail sticking up out of the mountain of leaves, going a million miles an hour, just having the time of his life.
there's one random one where there's like a dog. It's either a Chihuahua or uh,
Mm.
some sort of small dog at the top of the stairs,
Mm.
and the owners, maybe you've seen this one, the owners installed a lift.
Hmm.
The dog gets inside the lift at the top,
Hmm.
closes with his little paw the door,
Hmm.
stands on the front of it, and I guess there's I don't know what, and it goes
Hmm.
"Mee," and the dog's waiting. And it goes, "Mee." When it gets to the bottom, Mark, when it gets to the bottom, he opens the dog paws the door, it opens, and he walks out. I'm like, okay, and it's so ridiculous,
It's the
dude.
most American thing I've ever heard of in my life.
It's like, what the hell? And,
We got a stair lift for our dog. Forget about grandma. She can walk up them stairs. She's only 92, but the dog gets to ride in comfort.
Yeah. Well, it shows how much people, their dogs and what. There's one from like someplace somewhere out in who knows where.
Hmm.
The dog, like the video starts, and there's a dog halfway up the side of a motorcycle, parked motorcycle. There's
Hmm.
like some sort of grill or some bars there,
Hmm.
and he's pinched between it and the body of the motorcycle. He's not hurt, but he got in there somehow stuck. He's freaking stuck. And there's two guys with freaking wrenches
Hmm.
trying to pull. Have you
Take
seen that
everything
one?
apart. Uh-uh.
Yeah, trying to take everything. It's just incredible, dude. Like
I
all the
don't know, man.
stuff that we're seeing instantly, it's like wow.
Yeah.
I'm still amazed at it.
Yeah. Well, okay. I told you earlier that I had an idea percolating in my brain, and it kind of sort of figures in with this. But I'm going to go back a bit. We all, I think just about all of us, at a certain age, we just felt awkward.
And still
We
do.
didn't feel right. We kind of had that awkward stage where we didn't really know what to do. We went socially, maybe we were inept, or we just kind of felt like we're out of our league. And I'm wondering, well, did you ever experience that? Number one.
I experienced awkwardness, pimples. I
Hmm.
felt awkward about that.
Hmm.
Um, for some reason, I was super skinny, and yet I felt that I was kind of chubby. But actually, and I've seen photos now in
Hmm.
retrospect, I'm like, dude, I was like, at that point, I was like chiseled out of stone. But at the time, I thought, man, I'm a little bit flabby. But no, I had packs, I had freaking
Yeah.
abs, and I was like, holy. But at the time,
Yeah.
so it's self-perceived
Hmm.
this or that. So yeah, I've had various.
Did you felt out of place, like you didn't fit in?
Oh, in
Like,
a social thing.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I, I don't remember who said it, but it can be best summed up as: do you ever get the feeling you were a brown pair of shoes and the world was a black tuxedo? It's something similar to that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering if I haven't re entered that age, because there's a lot of things that I am kind of out of my league on and just inept with, or I'm just naive or just have no clue about. And a lot of it has to do with technology. You said you had a technology story, but I'm in that kind of a middle of the road, that middle where it's up to me now. Because, well, for instance, keeping track of something on Facebook, I used to be able to go to my grandkids and say, hey, how do I get to this? And they were right there. They knew, oh, well, you just go here and click this button and click that. Oh, okay, thank you. And boom, 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 boom. Now, if I say, hey, how do I do this on Facebook? They're like, Grandpa, the only people that use Facebook are old people. And
I beg to differ.
I'm like, hello,
Well, that's
hello, I'm your
that.
grandfather.
Yeah,
Do
that's
you
a
know or not? you know?
that's a good point. But at the same time, is that really true? Well, then again, I don't know.
But
I don't know.
well, but see, they don't have Facebook hardly anymore. They see, I got onto Facebook so I could keep in touch with them. The only reason they have Facebook is so they can keep in touch with me, because they've gone beyond. They're off onto other stuff. When adults started moving over to Facebook, the kids went over to Instagram. I remember my granddaughter was absolutely scandalized when she found out that I had an Instagram. You're on Instagram? Yeah. It was I'm like, oh no, he's invading our space. Then they had to go off somewhere else. Now none of my grandkids have Instagram because grandpa's on it, you know.
That's funny.
And so I'm kind of stuck in this awkward situation where I have to figure stuff out on my own now. Because I can't go to them to help. They're like, I don't know.
Well, you remember when you were a kid? I'm assuming this is more or less the same with you as it was with me, just by the sheer fact of age differences.
Mm-hmm.
But when you were a kid, when I was a kid, the gap in knowledge, discipline, the glue of society, all that from my eyes looking at the older generation,
Mhm.
they had those things. They had the knowledge, they had the answers, they had the some of the answers they wouldn't let out
Mhm.
immediately. They had the way to fix like they had, and they were also the keepers of what's right and wrong. And maybe they're also like, well, we can't fart around as much because grandpa, because he's the respect or the focal point
Mhm.
of all these tradition and all these things. Could there be something to that effect?
Probably just I don't know. See, because with me, it was dad was the disciplinarian, grandpa was the keeper of the wisdom and the knowledge.
Did you just call him grand pro?
Grandpa, well, I might have said grandpa, but I meant grandpa.
Because you just invented like a whole
Yeah,
new
well,
category.
maybe he was grand pro to me because that man could build anything. That man could do anything, in my eyes, anyway. And so he was the keeper of that kind of wisdom. Anything that to do with your hands. If it was tearing apart an engine, he'd tear it down and put it back together, and we'd drive it away. If it was building a fence, we'd have 50 foot of fence run in one afternoon. Everything complete,
Hmm.
and that kind of thing. He was that kind of guy.
He had the answers, and you were young and looking, and
Yeah,
he's got
exactly.
answers. He knew. Yeah.
My dad, on the other hand, was never really much of a handyman. He couldn't wait for me to get old enough to mow the lawn because he didn't want to do it. Can't really blame him. I had no problems with that. So dad was more of the disciplinarian. He was fun. He'd take my brother and I fishing and things like that. But he, I don't know. We never really got deeply philosophical and had discussions. He was an avid reader, a voracious reader. That man would bring home a new book every other day. But he never really shared any of that wisdom with me. The older I got, the smarter he got, is the way I kind of looked at it and figured out no, I was just opening my ears and listening to what he had to say. But I'll give you an example when I say dad was never much of a hands on guy. And Linda remembers this. He bought me for my birthday one year, he bought me a brand new circular saw. Yeah, happy birthday. Now I got a project for you to do. He wanted me to cut out a piece of plywood to fit in the window so he could put in a window unit, air conditioning unit in one bedroom. I'm like, well, why didn't you just do it? He said, I didn't want to do it. It's worth it to me to buy you the saw and have you do it. That's what I had kids for. That was
Yeah.
dad's attitude.
In reverse, at, from their point of view,
Mhm.
when you see someone younger, your grandchild, son, daughter, etc., when you reverse and you look from there, you have all this knowledge, all this life experience and wisdom. Um, Let me just get through this little bit and see what you think. I would assume that if you could remove the memory chip or USB drive and say, plug this in, like sort of like the Matrix, and you would upload all your data information of right wrongs, right way to do something, or dangers of one thing or the like, all this whole tapestry.
Mhm.
Um, then they'd have that knowledge. You've transferred the knowledge, but in reality, from an older generation looking at a younger generation, you have excessive amounts of data that's useful. But this young person, this sheet of paper, for lack of a better word, that's yet fully stuffed with ideas and can only process at a certain amount of time. And it's on them inevitably to retain or use in a useful manner the information that's, so there's a lot of question marks involved in the transfer. What do you think about that?
Um, you're right. There are a lot of question marks about the transfer because there are a lot of roadblocks as well. They are growing up in a different world than the world you and I grew up in.
Is it very different, Mark?
Oh, it's very different. Just that thing right there makes it very, very different. They're not out riding their bikes like you and I did. They don't have the same zeal for the type of entertainment that you and I had. They aren't out throwing rocks at little plastic green army man. They're not out um, doing the things that you and I did. They have other ways of entertaining themselves now. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just different. They're facing things that we didn't face. They have challenges that we didn't have, just as our parents had challenges we didn't face. So they're living in a different world than we were brought up in. A lot of this information I have discovered, and it took me a while to figure this out. You have to be judicious in your willingness to pass on this information. Because if you try to give it unsolicited, half the time it's blocked out. You close ears.
Mhm.
Grandpa's got an opinion on everything. Oh boy, he's going to say this, he's going to say that. I don't want that. If I am asked, I'm more than willing to talk. But I've learned that I have to hold back sometimes. I've also learned that there are some lessons they don't want to hear about. They want to and have to learn from them for themselves. Um, we're kind of helping youngest granddaughter study for her driver's license. And so Linda will throw quiz questions at her as they're driving to a demo or, running around, hanging out with one another, sitting around knitting and chatting. She'll throw driving questions at her. But she has to kind of she has to kind of limit it. It's really easy to sound like you're lecturing someone. And if you sound like you're lecturing, ears close. So I have to kind of, as much as I want to say something, I have to kind of hold back and not say anything unless I'm asked. Because I find that they're more receptive to that information that way. Unless I see them about ready to hurt themselves or something like that, then that's different.
Um,
But,
my thoughts on, I understand what you're saying, but I thought something in it that it's something sprung to mind. When my people have different approaches to that you're saying,
mm-hmm.
passing on information.
Sure.
I've told you before, my mother's side, when I was little, it's so I'll give you one example, or actually just a general example. She talked to me pretty much like she would to an adult. She conveyed information very explicitly, but with love.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't minimize my lack of age and experience and knowledge
Mm-hmm.
as a hampering
Mm-hmm.
to share information.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't always want certain information, but she'd
Right.
give me lessons in there that I still remember to this day, even though I didn't want it. My father never, likewise, minimized the way people. in my family, no matter from what position,
Mm-hmm.
even since I was little. I mean, when I was little, it's all goo 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 baby and this and that. But there
Yeah.
was conversation still.
Yeah.
At a very young age, they talked to me normal. They didn't hold back, and I don't know if they realized that they were doing it. They did it on purpose. I don't know
Yeah.
what, but I think that helped me in a sense, um, with this idea of not limiting. That's a tough one for me to say out loud because it's not 100% true, and I need to think more about it. But you get somewhere to the point where I'm sort of going that information was tossed at me
Mm-hmm.
according to them, and I don't know that they must have held some punches, but they did it without making it Google geeky.
Yeah.
They just hit me with the information, whatever
Mm-hmm.
it was, and this and that. Um, and I took
No.
I took with me what I took with me. I can give you a generalized, sometimes specific, sometimes not,
Mm-hmm.
essence of what my family members introduced into my mind and my belief system.
Yeah.
I can return that to you if pressed for it.
Yeah.
So they did their job, but half of that or whatever degree of that is also what I was willing to or able to um,
Retain. Yeah.
retain.
Yeah. And context is everything, because if you walk in the middle of a conversation between a couple people, you're going to absorb some of it, and if you're interested in it, you might stick around and you may ask questions. If you're not interested, you're going to leave, or you're going to go do find something else to do. If
Yeah,
one of them grabs you by the arm, no, you need to sit down, you need to listen to this. Suddenly the room has changed. Now you're being lectured to, now you're being talked at. So I try to psychologically not do that. You know what I mean? It's real easy to sit there and say, well, yeah, we did this, that, and the other. And folks are, well, we don't have to worry about that anymore. Yeah, you're right. You don't have to worry about that anymore. But what if you want to know how we did that one day? I mean, something simple and stupid like popping popcorn before microwave ovens in a pot on the stove,
hmm
you know,
in an aluminum tray with a wire for a handle.
or even just a pot on the stove with a lid. Well, how did you guys do that before you had microwave ovens? Now I'll tell you, but chances are they don't want to hear about that. They don't care. Well, then, 'cause then I turn into that relative. Well, back in my day, we used to have to get us a cast iron pot and a bunch of lard, and they don't want to hear that kind of crap. But
It depends on the kid too
it,
and the
it does
context.
depend on the kid, and again, the context is key. But
My
it's like,
grandfather,
damn, Grandpa, what did you guys do for fun when you didn't have computer games? Well, we went
my,
outside and found our friends and jumped on our bikes and we went and just adventured.
my grandfather would sit on the porch and talk to me of his life where he grew up in Cantabria,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd be sitting here in Sweetwater, right here outside the store,
Mm-hmm.
over 30 some odd years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and sit down with a Michelob, and he'd tell me of his life and things that I didn't have context to,
Mm-hmm.
but he shared. And all these years after, I can recall the things he shared. To the degree that I can. I can't tell you to a T, but the point is that um, I was curious and interested. He was telling he would
Mm-hmm.
the way, but that depends on the person because each person is
Yeah.
like a little computer. Um, I saw it as an opportunity to understand. Even back then, even if I didn't parse through the
Mm-hmm.
why, but I looking back, I accepted the information coming in. I could later revise it as so I choose if I wanted to.
Sure.
So I see it different. I've always seen it different, but everybody's different anyhow.
Yeah. Well, my grandfather was a different story. My grandfather, I'd sit and he would do similar. Um, he'd sit and talk about growing up in Oklahoma. and about how the first 50 cents he made, he went down and bought himself a pair of overalls, a brand new pair of bib overalls. It was the first brand new clothes he ever owned. And, you know, that was, but I was about 7 or 8 years old. So I had no frame of reference on any of that stuff other than the distances they had to go and how often they went. I knew he grew up on a farm. I knew he was a farm kid. He would talk about getting in the pickup with his mom and dad, and they'd go into town, and going to town was a big thing. And they'd fill up the bed of that truck with supplies, with food and what have you, and then bring it home and spend the whole day putting that stuff away. But they were buying 50-pound sacks of flour and what have you. They weren't buying a bunch of, Fruit Loops and Twinkies and Ding Dongs. They were getting stuff that they needed. So, I mean, those kind of stories, yeah, but there's a time and a place for those kind of stories. That wasn't on a daily basis. When I'm out with my grandpa and we're, you know, building fence or we're cutting, but we're pruning the apple tree. It was talk about that kind of thing. If I'm helping him with the room addition, um, it was talking about that and where he got his start. He would drop little things like that. Like I would bend a nail, pull it out, and throw it in the bed of the truck. And he'd say, "Go get that and straighten it out and use it." I was in my 20s before I ever used brand new store bought nails. You don't throw stuff like that away. You don't waste it. Well, okay. I do it. I thought it was silly because nails were cheap. But then again, I never lived without them. So,
There's the passing of information.
mhm,
It's a benefit, in my opinion, but I would say that because I feel that I've benefited from being given those stories of the past.
mhm,
Um, so I feel that it's a beneficial thing. It's obvious that they were older.
mhm,
I didn't take it in a general sense, unless I was being schooled or scolded.
mhm.
But if the story has a moral, I was generally open to it
Yeah.
because there's context going. So I didn't see it. I mean, but then again, I've always liked older people
Mhm.
because they have knowledge,
Yes.
but potentially useful. And I've
Well,
always thought in those terms in a general sense because I mean, hell, I'm not much for this oh that's old hat.
mhm,
Your concepts are old hat.
mhm.
I mean, I could in certain topic whatever, but generally speaking, our link is to the past is because of the people. I don't know. I find there's more. I see it different.
Exactly.
I've always
Yeah.
seen it different.
Well, I didn't adopt that mindset of the older people have the knowledge that we need. I didn't adopt that mindset until I was probably in my early 30s, maybe late 20s.
Okay.
I would listen, but I didn't really seek out information. I would occasionally ask if I was trying to do something I'd never done before, you know, I would ask. But, um, something like car insurance. My father, when I got my driver's license, he added me to their car insurance. And he sat me down and he showed me because school doesn't teach you that. He sat down and he went through it with me. This is what it does. This is what it is. Doesn't mean you can go out and tear stuff up and they're going to pay for it. It means that if an accident happens, this is the coverage for this, and this is for that, and this is for the other. And he explained everything to me. So when I had to go out and get car insurance myself, I had a better understanding of what I was looking for. They don't teach that kind of thing in school. They didn't teach me how to go vote. I had to figure that out, you know.
Yeah. School doesn't teach the things that many of the things that
I agree with you 100%. I will agree with you 100%. There's a certain there's a certain number of things that they need to teach kids. Number one, money. They need to teach kids about money. Where does it come from? How does it work? How does the thing that motivates 99% of civilizations, how does it work? Where does it come from? And how do you control it rather than let it control you? That is a major, major, major subject that needs to be taught because too many people learn the hard way, and I
A,
don't believe in setting people up for failure like
a
that.
poor a poor the poor reading of why.
Hmm.
There's a better reading, but I'll just lay out the poor reading as to why kids are not taught these things that would be useful tools as they venture out after the fact. The poor reading would be because the system needs workers, not thinkers, and the thinkers will usually break from the herd and stand out enough so that they generally are plucked out to do the jobs that are above the average, banging on a hammer or what this or that. Even though they're all important, but to the system, I think it's just, hey, we're collecting money from these potential taxpayers in the future, and let's at least make them functional enough to press the button at the chocolate factory or whatnot.
There's something to that. I think there's a lot to that. However,
Maybe.
I also think that they put other things ahead of things like that. Not always the right thing, but it's real easy. The real easy cop out you hear is, well, that's the parents' job. Well, not everybody has good parents, and not everybody has parents. So you're saying the kids who parents were killed in an accident doesn't deserve the same shake that the kid who has both parents in the house. I mean, you
Yeah.
can go all kinds of different directions on that. But I think there's a lot of what you say involved as well. It doesn't fit certain agendas. But I don't know. That's just me. I'll get
No,
off of that soapbox.
no. If you
But
if you stick out, well, just one last thing. If you stick out and happen to stick out from the fray, um, then hey, this is a person that excels, so we'll plug it. But and so fine, they'll serve the other functions in
mhm.
life, but the majority of the people just get tossed into the workforce situation,
Yeah, I,
and really in the dark about much of anything.
I think you're right. They just want efficient taxpayers.
Yeah,
Go to work and pay your taxes.
that's the
And
poor reading of it.
yeah, I think there's more truth to it than one would think. But I'll get off of that. But as far as imparting, you know, it depends on what's going on. Like when I make homemade salami, and when I break out the homemade salami when we're at a family gathering, Christmas or what have you, there's a lot of people interested in how I make it. Whether or not they're going to make it themselves, I have no idea. But I've told them how I do it, and now it's up to them. But seems awful interesting to me that every time I break out the homemade salami, I'm asked the same question. So it's telling me they're not making it themselves. But boy, they will tear up what I make. I'll tell you what. So, I mean, but a lot of that is just fun, you know?
Yeah. Oh
A
yeah.
lot of it is just, well, how do you make, and I keep getting the grandpa, when you gonna make some more pulled pork? Well, sweetheart, I've made pulled pork probably 15 times since the last time you had any. You know where we live. You know where the phone is.
You put the
You
onus
know
on them, huh?
exactly. So you know where we live. That Jim, this is personal. This is 100% personal. Jim Dockrell said we had fresh salmon the other day. My favorite fish. Neighbor caught a 35 and a 34 pounder. His wife a 32 pound. That's just the right size. That's just the right size. Right in that range. Maybe down to 25 pounds, but right in that 30-pound range. That is just, you get some nice steaks and you get some nice fillets. Mm, yes. And that's prime for smoking.
Can't you
Love
just wait
smoked
till
salmon.
can't you just wait till mechanically printed salmon and steaks come into fashion?
Dude, I got world class salmon fishing 3 miles from my house. Now I just got to carry my butt down to that river and do it. And it's not salmon season. What can I say?
Have you seen those videos where the thing goes and it's building and then they take it and they pull it apart and it has almost the consistency of meat, like they're recreating it.
I want to go fishing. Yeah, so do I. Salmon fishing derby was last weekend. Oh man, I tell you what, I just went way off. Sorry, just derailed. Smoked salmon is my absolute favorite thing in the world. There, I said it, and I'm glad. Oh, this is smoked salmon country. My God, is it ever good? My favorite thing in the world.
I like salmon. I like fish, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
I I I, I like that a lot. To be honest with you, I sometimes prefer it even more than meat. You know.
About the only way I'm not really a big fan is poached fish or fish in soups. I love clam chowder. Don't get me wrong, but I don't classify that. That's seafood. That's not fish to me. I'm not much for fish soups or fish chowders. I would rather have a nice fillet and have some soup over here. Don't put the fish in the soup. Let me have the fillet over here. And I'm not a big fan of poaching. I like broiled, I like grilled, I like fried, I like smoked, but I'm not much for boiling or poaching.
Do you have you ever had ceviche?
Once, and I'm not much for it.
What brand of ceviche was it?
This was a homemade, and I'm trying to remember who made it. It was years ago. It was a friend's mother made it. She was Italian, and I just wasn't much for it. It just maybe it was her recipe. I don't know, but it just the texture to me, texture of the fish in it just didn't. I wasn't much for it.
So I don't know what the Italians do, but and I don't know. So Peruvians do ceviche as well. I guess they use that
Okay.
name. And you tell me if this is the same thing, but they take different types of uh, seafood
Mm-hmm.
and they chop it up into pieces and
Mm-hmm.
shrimp and this and that,
Yeah.
and then they let it I guess cook or
Mm-hmm.
cure or whatever the word would be with lime, lemon, and other spices, and they allow that to cook the food naturally, and then they serve it in a bowl or whatnot, and with corn too, like South
Mm-hmm.
American type corn,
Mm-hmm.
which is different, like big. I don't know what you would call it,
Okay.
whatever.
That's a different recipe.
Yeah.
That's a different recipe than what we had. This was like a soup, but it was cold.
Okay.
This was like a soup. It didn't have corn in it, and it had tomato in it.
Oh well, that sounds like a gazpacho style.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking. Maybe I got the two confused.
Gazpacho is a Spanish tomato soup that might be as well Italian or Southern Europe. I don't know, but I know that
Hmm.
in Spain they have it's tomato and it's served mm, cold or at room temperature, um, and it's refreshing. I mean, I guess you could summarize it with a tomato soup, something
Yeah,
to that.
gazpacho is what I had. Gaspacho. Yeah, yeah, that's what it was. It wasn't ceviche. Okay, I don't think I've had ceviche. No,
I like it. I don't know if you like lime.
it's got its place. I mean, I'm not opposed to it.
So this is
So,
fish cooked in it, let's say,
hmm.
or cured in. I don't even know what the proper word is, but it's got all sorts of other stuff, and you
Hmm.
eat that, and it's like it's got tang to it.
Hmm.
Um, I like it.
Hmm.
I mean, not every day. In fact, I haven't
Sure.
had it for actually a decade or so. But
Hmm.
last time I had it, I sure it's good. It's good. It's
I
interesting.
I'm not a big fan of sushi or raw fish. I'm not a big fan of it.
But this
I
is not
tried it.
raw. This is cooked,
Well,
but it's
understood.
cooked through that method.
Through enzymes, no heat. I just don't like the texture. I mean, I tried it a lot over in Hawaii. They have something over there they call poke, Poke, and they pronounce the E as a A. And it is cubed fish raw. And then it's there are several different styles, several different seasonings. Some of them are more of an Asian vibe to it, soy sauce and sesame seeds and vegetables and things like that. Then others is more savory. Um, some is kind of sweet, but they all had different types of raw fish. You get it with mahi mahi or with marlin or tuna. And I'm just not a fan of the texture. I just am not much for the texture at all.
It does have a right after the kill taste. Let me close the
It's
door.
got a gummy sensation that I just don't enjoy. And to me, that wipes out any flavor it could have. As a joke once, as a joke, Linda and I kept teasing about it. She was out in the field, and I decided I'd try it, and it was meh. I said, this sushi stuff wouldn't be bad if you bring it home and throw it in a wok and cook it. I did that. I went down and I got a half pint of a tuna poke, and I threw it in a wok with some oil and I stir fried it up. It was okay. Nothing I would want to make a special trip to go down and get again, but at least I tried it. You know.
Have you ever had octopus?
Oh yeah, several times.
Do you like it?
Oh yeah. My favorite, I sound like a broken record. My favorite was smoked octopus. Now, that I did get in the car and I would drive down to the store, and you get that at the deli there in Hawaii. You get, they call it taco, which is the Japanese taco, Tako. And I'd ask for a pint of smoked taco, pay my money, take it home, and just chow down. It's good stuff. It's kind of tough, but good stuff.
Calamari?
Calamari, if it's made right, it's real easy to turn perfectly good calamari into rubber bands if you do it wrong.
That's true. Um, I don't know if it's still around, but there's a place in Kendall, a Mexican place called South of the Border.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of almost like a Chili's
Mm-hmm.
or a Ruby
I'm
Tuesday
sorry.
type. It's kind of like a brand chain type deal,
Americanized Mexican, yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
they do good food within the concept of what it is. Dude,
Sure.
they kick butt. I mean, it's and they serve the nice drinks and the whole thing. It's your Mexican experience, food experience. Um, a little bit more, I guess, what you're saying, like brandized and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got its vibe. It's got its
Mm-hmm.
vibe. I like that place.
I love Mexican food. Good Mexican food. I love it. I'm talking about with Auntie in the back making the tortillas by hand and throwing them on. We got a place not too far from us that we go every once in a while, and we'll get an asada plate or carnitas plate or something like that. Linda had a uh, green chili plate the other day and chicharrones and the whole thing, which is deep fried pork belly. So, but you got to get them fresh when they're nice and soft, fresh out of the fat. You got
They
to get
make
them nice and fresh.
chicharrones are made here. They're pork rinds.
Well, there's two different ways they're made. Sometimes they take just the fat from the pork belly and the skin, and that's what's fried, and it's like pork rinds.
Mhm.
The other is like imagine bacon that's about a half inch thick
Yeah,
and strips and just deep fry that.
that's
But
the way they make them here. So that's a tradition.
Hmm.
But there's certain markets, supermarkets that you can go to
Hmm.
where they'll get a big paper bag,
Hmm.
they'll grab some tongs and they'll fill it up with these long strips of the stuff,
Hmm.
and out the door you go. And
Yeah.
boy, oh boy,
Hmm. That's this place. I mean, you want some chicharrones? He the guy will pick up. It's a huge stainless steel tray, and I mean, there he sets it up on the counter, and there is a mountain, and he hands you a pair of tongs and a bag. There you go,
oh they
and
weigh it.
you throw what you want, and yeah, and then they sell it by the pound,
Okay,
and they go through a bunch. I mean, at least three people bought them while we were sitting there waiting for our food.
I don't buy that all the time. I bought it once or twice in the
Hmm.
past 10 years, to be honest with you,
Hmm.
because it's not like something that I generally. Um, but when I do, it's such a delicious treat.
Oh yeah, I like them.
I mean, that sparks up your taste buds like. "Nyeh,
Well,
nyeh."
because there are so many different types. I mean, it depends on what region of Mexico you're talking about. I mean, you know, people everywhere have different taco fillings. It's not just all beef. It's fish or it's potatoes with chilies or it's chicken or it's I mean, and they're served all kinds of different ways. And carnitas, oh my gosh. God, I'm getting hungry. And I'd already had dinner.
There's a place, I don't know if you guys have this, but we have a place here, or used to. I don't know. I don't haven't been there in a while, but called Dave and Buster's,
We don't have one. Do we have one here? No, we don't have one here, but I've heard of
and they have. It's kind of like a place where you can go dine, drink, play pool,
them. Hmm.
and then they have arcades and stuff in the back. Like it's like a one and all stop for entertainment type thing. But it's got this sort of like theme of, I don't even know what you. It's an American theme. I don't know what you want. What would you? What era? It's
Hmm.
got a theme. And they used to sell, and I used to go there specifically because they sold them,
Hmm.
these fish tacos. And I'd go right to the bar. I'd sit at the bar, eat those tacos, and I did that for years. And then one day, they changed the menu, and I was so not pleased
Hmm.
that I refused to go there from that point on. I'm like that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna change this up on me? Okay, see you later. I mean,
Well, I came here for this. You no longer have that. Why am I here? Bye.
yeah, they have other plates,
Hmm.
but I would go for that.
Exactly. Well, but I'm with you. I'm with you 100% on this. I think we all have this. There is something that a restaurant makes that is different, that is the go to. When you go to this restaurant, you're going to get that. And that's it. I don't care what else is on your menu. I'm here for this. You know, when they no longer have that, you're like, well, that was a great place. I mean, their other food may be excellent,
But I
but I
don't
mean,
want it.
there's one place, Freddy's Diner down in Eagle Point, not too
First
far
world
away from
problems.
us. Fish and chips. If I want fish and chips, I'm going to Freddy's Diner. They may have excellent prime rib. They may have great burgers. They may have fantastic sandwiches. But if I'm going to Freddy's Diner, I'm bringing home fish and chips, and that's all there is to it. If they ever take fish and chips off the menu, I'll never be back because I don't care. That's why I went there, you know?
Back in the day, um, during high school days,
Hmm.
I had my high school sweetheart, and we were going out. And she had her family, of course, and her cousins were young,
Hmm.
and her cousins had boyfriends, and so the natural thing is that we would all go out on a group date,
Hmm.
and um, we ended up for the first time in my life in this restaurant, and we ate, like those bloomin' onions, where
Oh, yeah.
and all that kind of stuff, and for me at the time that was new.
Hmm.
And then, oh, let's have dessert, let's have the something something or other ice cream. I was like, what's that? Oh, it's an ice cream, and we'll order one for everyone. What? What do you mean one for? I didn't understand the concept. And then they brought this huge bowl
Hmm.
with ice cream and such, and then they placed spoons all around the table, and I was freaking mortified. I
Everybody eating out of the same bowl.
It was horrific, Mark. It was horrific, and I was like,
Mhm.
"What the?" Because you could pick from a main bloomin' onion thing,
Mhm.
because it's there in the centerpiece, and I guess, but you're dividing. But ice
Yeah,
cream,
this is my little corner over here. Yeah.
ice cream melts and congeals into itself, dude.
Yeah.
And I just like, and but I went for broke, and I went, but I was like a little bit weirded out, a lot weirded out. I was not used to that kind of. It was very communal, this the sharing.
Stay away from the Middle East because that's how most of their meals are made. The big platters will sit there and everybody eats out of the same, those communal platters.
Oh no, dude.
Stay away from the Middle East. Let's see here. Uh-oh. Al Kilroy's Odessa Woodworking and Maker Shop. Best fish and chips I ever had was in Chicago. Arthur Treach's Fish and Chips. Never had Arthur Treach's. Best I ever had was a little hole in the wall joint. Linda's mom took us to on the Oregon coast. It's called the Blue Whale in the burgeoning metropolis of Yachats, Oregon. And my God, was that good fish and chips. I would make a special trip to go back there just for those fish and chips. God, it was good.
One thing. And by the way, my favorite one is Long John Silver's, but I have had Arthur Treacher's, and it's good, but no comparison to I'm sorry, I Long John Silver's. I don't. I like the I like the what they did, but
I don't think we have one. Go ahead.
what? No, no. Go ahead. What?
John Silver's. I don't think we have one.
Oh my goodness, I love Long John Silver's, and we had one right here in Sweetwater until they decided to go um into Arby's. I think it was. Oh no, no, not in Sweetwater, on on Bird Road or Coral Way, and then it went out of fashion for some reason. But um, well, hell, I was gonna say something. I forget now. Unfortunately. Oh, back in the day, for some reason, fries at your
Mhm.
McDonald's or Burger King.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be biased here, but maybe I'm failing terribly. But when you got yourself fries, especially if you were a bunch of kids walking over to the Burger King and ordering fries just so you can eat some fries, or what, you had some change and you guys all got together and you went over, they'd serve the fries and they were steaming freaking hot.
Yeah.
There used to be smoke coming out of those fries, dude.
Yeah. Nice and hot, steamy.
I've never seen that since. I've not seen
Um,
that since, Mark.
I don't know. I don't know.
I've not seen that since. If you're saying Oregon has steamy fries at your local burger places, then I think Oregon is a place
Well,
to have.
I'm trying to think. Um, I our local Burger King does them pretty good, and I mean seriously hot right out of the fat. Um, but no, that's not the norm because and McDonald's fries ain't what they used to be because they got they I don't remember if they got sued over it or if they got called on it. But one of the secrets of McDonald's fries was they blanch the potatoes. They all do. They blanch the potatoes. They boil them to get them close to done. Then they cut them into the French fries. Then they deep fry them. So they're already almost done before they ever go into the fat. Well, McDonald's used to blanch them in a beef stock. So you got that extra bit of flavor. Well, vegetarians and folks who have of certain religions got all over them about it and they changed that. They no longer do that. Now they just blanch them in salt water like
We
just
should
about everybody else does.
we should divide the country into cow eating country and everybody else.
Well, I think if you when you I'm all about transparency and declaration and things like that. I think that if you're going to do something like that, you let them know. You let folks know. You know.
I want signs in a city limit area and saying within these city limits,
Well, just put it on the just put it on the menu. You know.
we are deeply enamored with the concept of consuming X, Y, and Z, and this and that. Welcome.
And you know, Al has makes a good point. Eloy, that's what Texas is all about: eating cows. Yes, Texas is in the midst of a personal war against cow, and they're getting rid of them one meal at a time. But I'll tell you what, that's going to be one tasty son of a gun.
And by the way, as opposed to the rest of America, I would assume.
Mhm,
You tell me if there's any other place in the United States, and Al would know this
mhm.
because he's, although not local, he is kind of local by default, due to a similar origins. But with that said,
Mhm,
um, in Miami,
mhm,
you can surely get your regular steak. And when you think steak, you
mhm.
think of something that's roughly like this or like that. I mean, you're working
Yeah.
with a steak. But
Mhm,
for Miami, the traditional thing is, and particularly with Cubans or people in the Caribbean, there's a
mhm.
tendency the steak is a skirt steak.
Oh yeah, we get a lot of skirt steak here too.
This is what we consider steak, traditionally
Mhm,
speak. Oh, you can get both, but that's consumed way more. At least it seems that way,
mhm.
and it's definitely offered more on every street corner here.
Yeah, most of your fajitas and sometimes it depends. Sometimes your asada is skirt steak. Um, just about all of that, now that I'm thinking of it, is skirt steak.
A lot of it is skirt steak. Then
Hmm. Yeah,
skirt steak. I was gonna
yeah.
skirt steak.
You and me both. Um,
Your
uh-oh,
word.
uh-oh.
Your what?
Al says, by the way, when I was in Miami last summer and you didn't stop to say hello, the chicken place had black beans and rice. What?
Oh yeah, there's
Black
that's
beans,
gonna come. Yeah,
black beans and rice is good stuff.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh no, there's a little place over here across the way on Flagler, Mark.
Hmm.
Um, that it used to be an Arby's.
Uh-huh.
Then they changed it into something or other, and then now it's a Pollo Tropical.
Okay. We don't
And
have that out here.
well, the Pollo Tropical is roughly within the general vicinity of what a Pollo Loco would be.
Yeah, we don't have an El Pollo Loco too. Last one I had was down in Reno, and I missed that place. I
So
love El Pollo Loco.
it's a similar theme as Pollo Loco, but in this scenario, it has the Caribbean dishes attached to it.
Yeah.
So you do have your rotisserie chicken, but you
Mhm.
also have these typical Caribbean foods or accompaniments. And
Yeah.
so when you sit down with that meal,
Mhm.
like you can order a quarter chicken, which is not an awful lot,
No,
considering,
it's not.
but still, they'll serve you the white rice, the
Mhm.
black beans,
Mhm.
and then you get your choices of these Caribbean type little sauces.
Mhm.
They're not spicy hot.
Mhm.
They're more flavorful, using garlics and
Yeah.
other types of things. So it's in that direction. But boy, oh boy, dude,
Mhm.
you take your rice and you can just dip a little bit in one of the and eat that, and it's white rice, and then you have the beans, and this. When you're done, you feel this internal
Yep.
complete completion and
And
happiness.
that's one of the reasons why I like places like El Pollo Loco. I'm the same way with KFC.
Oh yeah,
Okay, is that we think of it as fast food, and in many respects it is,
oh yeah.
but you're getting a full meal. You know, I'm not having a burger and fries here. I've got a chicken breast, and I've got mashed potatoes and gravy, and I've got coleslaw. That's a meal.
Well, wait, but it goes to what you're
So
saying. Well, go ahead, go ahead.
so I like that kind of thing. I like those kind of places.
But the burger thing. If you
Mhm.
compare like you've brought up in the past, Five Guys burger. Okay, so if you compare your Burger King, and they used to be freaking awesome. I don't know what happened to them, but whatever. But Five Guys is still producing, at least the last time I, quality, fresh.
Mm-hmm.
You're biting in, you're saying, "Oh, okay, this is actually a burger," as opposed to something that's almost
Yeah,
cardboard.
right. I agree with you 100%.
There's a difference between a
Mm-hmm.
fresh burger and a cardboard burger trying to pretend to be a burger.
The three most popular places in this valley are Five Guys Burgers, In and Out Burgers, and Chick-fil-A. They're opening a second Chick-fil-A down on the south end of town. Those are the three most popular fast food joints. And man, I I I love Five Guys fries. I save them and heat them up the next day with some cheese on top.
I like their burgers, to be honest with you. I like their burgers. Their fries, last time I had them, I like fries to be snappy.
Yeah, they don't do snappy fries. Um, but I'm fine with that. I like the fact that they cook them in peanut oil and you can taste it. I like that flavor.
Hey, dude,
So
we
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 become the food channel.
we no, but you can tell that there's passion with it. You can tell
Mhm.
there's some deep. You can tell that there's some deep. There's a fountain of resources there that
Oh,
we can pull from.
Jim just hit the understatement of the decade. Jim, I have gone on record, and I'll say it again just in case you missed it. I am on a one man crusade to get poutine to be down here in the States in every place that sells French fries. Have you ever had poutine?
No, the closest is that loaded sort of fry chili sort of thing.
It is the food of the gods. French fries, cheese curds, hot brown gravy. And the cheese melts in the hot brown gravy over the hot fries, and you have to eat them with a fork because you don't dare try with your fingers unless you're like me, an animal, and don't mind having crap all over you.
Oh,
You know,
so it's
oh,
nice.
it is good stuff. It is good stuff. And if I could get my hands on cheese curds easily, I mean, we can get little itty bitty quarter pint things of cheese curds, like 6 pieces, and they're like $7.
Yeah,
Baloney. If I could get good quality cheese curds here, I would be. And I mean, they make them of all kinds of different varieties. I've seen people put pulled pork on them. I've seen people put barbecue. I mean, you name it. But poutine is the stuff. I'm a major fan, Jim. I'm a major fan.
but let me throw this is out of nowhere, but just to say one thing or the other, because you're saying this from Canada, and oh,
Mhm.
granted, I have not tried it, but I can picture it. Um, Something that's very American, United
Mhm.
States American, um, at the epitome or pinnacle of, let's put it this way: you have things like the pyramids
Mhm.
and whatnot, Eiffel Tower, and I don't know what other, just whatever. And then I'm just for my purposes right now is the day that either McDonald's or Burger King, I forget which ones, invented, and it's classic. For the buns, instead of buns, waffles, and inside you have your meal with all your layers, and the waffles are injected with maple, and that sandwich. I don't forget now what it was, but it's like holy.
McGriddle, almost like a McGriddle.
I think that that's the epitome.
Mhm.
If you could send out, you know how they sent out music on the
Mhm.
satellite whatnot, they should, they should package that, because I think that that's a perfect culmination of everything. It may sound terrible, but it's actually, it tastes really good.
Mhm. I mean, If you were hard pressed, could you name a truly American food? I don't think you could, because everything we have here was invented somewhere else. We've just kind of adapted it to us. You know, pizza is Italian, but not the pizza we have here in America. You know, hamburgers. No, people have been grinding beef for centuries,
Yeah, but
and
we reinvented it into what it is.
hamburger is actually from hamburger. That's from Hamburg, Germany. Ground beef in the Hamburg style. Um, Hot dog, no, that's very, very similar to a Savoy over in Great Britain. It's a little bit different seasoning. We had turmeric, but that's Frankfurt style. Why they're called Frankfurters. Yeah, so how apple pie was invented in England? I mean, Linda says succotash, and that's probably the closest thing I can think of to a truly American food.
Suffering succotash.
Yes, it's actually nothing more than lima beans and corn. If you've ever had lima beans and corn together, that's succotash.
So that's where the saying comes.
Hmm.
Like suffering succotash, like saying,
Was that that was oh god, rootin' tootin' Yosemite Sam, suffering succotash. Yeah,
that's so
I couldn't
great.
think of his name, Yosemite Sam.
Yeah,
But
you
yeah,
said.
that's it's lima beans and corn. That's what it is.
Oh man. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that in itself. It's just a very limited dish, no?
Hmm.
Yeah,
But
but
there aren't really that many truly
barbecue.
native species here. Just about everything. No, that barbacoa that came from the Caribbean. We got it from the Caribbean, and it's spread all over the place.
Is it
Yep.
barbacoa?
Hmm.
Wait, let me see.
Look up the history of barbecue.
Where was barbecue invented? Oh, okay. Originated in the Caribbean with indigenous people in the Middle Ages. The word barbecue comes from the Taino word barabeku and refers to the wooden structure used to smoke dry or roast meat.
Hmm.
Spanish explorers led by Christopher Columbus found Native Americans in the Caribbean, and then they go on into that.
Yeah.
The technique could take up to 12 hours. Juicy, tender. It's a commercial. Okay, fine. I didn't know that, but
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Um, uh, I was corrected. Sylvester the cat used to say "thuffer and thuckatash." That's right. That's who it was.
Yeah, it's a tough one to remember because they all blend into each other.
Well, it
Um,
was all blank, the man of a thousand.
American specific food. It's adaptations um,
Well,
to things that people brought with them anyhow.
yeah, and we have a tendency, and that I don't know. I think maybe that's the American trait is we take something and turn it up to 11. You know, the pizza marguerite is basically the crust, some tomato sauce, maybe a little bit of mozzarella and some basil, maybe some parmesan, a little bit, not much. Well, we turned it up and we started throwing on Italian sausage and pepperoni and more cheese and more cheese and more cheese. And did I mention we wanted cheese?
Mhm.
You know, we did the same thing with spaghetti. We did the same thing with tacos. We did the same thing with any kind of Mexican food, basically. We kind of Americanized it and ramped it up and turned it up to 11. That's our style. That's what we do.
You said tacos.
Hmm.
We've talked about it, but it just something popped. I can remember the first time
Hmm.
my mom brought home from the grocery store a box,
Hmm.
and she said, and she came in and she's unpacking the stuff, and I'm in the kitchen there, and I'm looking. I'm always looking at what she brought. Did she bring something good? And and she brings out this box, And she says, "Look, son, we're gonna make tacos at home." And it sounded exciting at the time. I don't know if Taco Bell was around. It probably was around already. I
Hmm.
can't place where, but she said, "Look, we're gonna make tacos at home. So now we're gonna make tacos, something new, and we're gonna take ground beef and we're gonna do the whole thing." And I remember seeing tacos in the. That was the first time
Hmm.
that I'd ever seen a box. And what it was it wrapped in plastic, where you break the plastic, and
Hmm.
the shells were all
Yeah,
lined up.
yeah, yeah.
I've not bought that since, like, just to see how not
Hmm.
really with it in terms of dishes it is for
Yeah.
Miami. Um, for me, it was something novel.
Hmm.
But it was something cool, and we did the tacos and stuff, and the meat and this and that. I don't know if my dad much cared for it or not. I can't remember, but he was a little bit more with his food.
Hmm.
Um, so maybe not, but I enjoyed the heck out of it. But of course, comparing it to what we see,
Yeah.
but I remembered that it came in a box
Hmm.
and was stacked in plastic thing. I don't know if that's common to this day. Is it common to this day?
I think they still sell that, but I'm not sure. Made by Schilling, McCormick, or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Um, I've seen that, but I haven't. I don't know if I've seen it recently. I haven't really paid much attention to it. Um, but the first time I ever had taco coming from the Pacific Northwest, the as a kid growing up, the Hispanic influence up here was zero, zero. Um, I can't think of a Hispanic family. But then again, we moved down to California in 1966, 65, 60, 65. And that was my first exposure to anything like that. Um, the first time I ever had tortilla chips, Dad brought home a bag of Doritos. Now, he worked grocery, so these were brand new. I mean, brand new. And he brought home a bag of Doritos, tortilla chips. I said, "What's this?" He says, "It's kind of like a corn chip. It's a tortilla chip." I said, "Oh, Fritos." He said, "No, it's not Fritos." And for about a week, I was confused. They were good, fine, great. No, they didn't taste like Doritos. They were slightly different, but I couldn't wrap my head around how is this corn chip different from this corn chip. And then we went, I don't remember where we went. I was pretty young and I had a taco for the first time. I was hooked. I was hooked after that. But again, it was the American crunchy taco. That's not a taco that you get in a real Mexican place.
Yeah,
They're
there's
soft. They're not deep fried. They're soft.
there's difference between Taco Bell,
Hmm.
obviously.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not
Americanized.
Taco Bell is not the experience of that fresh taco that you're
Yeah.
talking about.
No, Taco Bell is not Mexican food. It's Mexican inspired,
Yeah,
but it's not Mexican food. So,
and it's good too in a
oh yeah,
pinch.
it's good. It's got its place for sure. But if I want Mexican food, I want that little hole in the wall place with maybe, well, Linda, how many booths does our Mexican joint have? Maybe four booths and a table. And most of the people sitting in the booths are waiting on their to-go orders, that kind of joint. And oh my gosh. And yes, that's what they're called up here, street tacos, and they're about a 4-inch round tortilla. Yeah, roughly. And you get two tortillas. They kind of lay them out so they overlap. Your fillings go in there, wrap it up in foil, and off you go. Yes.
I remember in California, we would stop at a corner because there would be a truck, lights on, it's getting dark, but the
Hmm.
truck was illuminated from the inside out,
Hmm.
and I had never experienced such things. And I'm eating, and they're like bite sized, nice and hot,
Hmm.
and it's like California cool outside.
Hmm.
I would call it cold from here, but it's just a perfect blend of I want more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Order me up more.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
like
I will almost eat my weight in that stuff. Give it to me all. Chile relleno, yes. Flauta, please.
it's just such a great. It really, again, you know that I've told you in the past that for
Hmm.
me California, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It's all that and more, in my opinion. California is all that. I'm not talking about the situation how it might be recently.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, at least then
Hmm.
was all. I would even go to this extreme. All things align perfectly, including weather, this, and that
Hmm.
in California. It is.
There's some spectacular country there, some spectacular scenery, the coast, especially. The desert can have its own spectacular views.
Mhm.
There's a lot of great country there.
Yeah,
I will agree with that 100%.
I can't. Yeah, it's something out of this world.
Did you ever get north far enough to get up into the redwoods, the giant redwoods?
I went up as far as San Francisco, no further.
You didn't go any further? Oh man, you were, well, you were still quite a ways away, but you cannot go out in that forest of these gigantic, I mean, some of these things are 400 feet tall. I think the world record is like 464 feet, something like that. You cannot go out into those gigantic trees without a spiritual feeling. I would challenge anybody to go out there and not just feel, there is something in the soul that just wakes you up. And it just like, holy cow. Because it's not just a big tree, it's thousands of them. You are surrounded by trees with trunks that are measured in feet, not inches.
There's no place on earth like it,
Oh my God. It
right?
is, it absolutely no place like Earth on it. So it's really something.
Let me before we slowly and go in the direction. I just
Hmm.
wanted to mention the technology thing. Just an aside.
Okay.
I got the curiosity bug again a week or so ago
Hmm.
with ideas of working on music here and there,
Hmm.
even if just a little bit. But I have too many obstacles in order to get my equipment digitally and in-house hardware
Hmm.
to align properly in order to even mess with that.
Yeah.
And I found out how much so because last night, since you had your issues,
Hmm.
I said this is about the right time to focus on that a little bit.
Hmm.
I pulled out my laptop, my old laptop,
Yeah.
because on this new machine, I'd have to do a lot of work to get it to work with my specific drivers and
Yeah.
whatnot, and it's just a big pain in the butt. I had it set up, but it would be like a whole adventure.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? My laptop already has my stuff ready. So I pulled it out, opened up the laptop, and set up the hardware, and it wouldn't work.
Oh.
I was like, oh, what? And it took a while to get it to work because I had to remember all the steps in order for the two things to
Yeah.
communicate with each other that had been done already, but a long time forgotten.
Hmm.
So I had to remember a bunch of stuff in order to get. And finally, when it got ready, I pressed to open the program, and it got in. And I was like, okay, all right. And then I use a program that actually lines within the program,
Hmm.
that communicates with the program in order to bring in drums and such and this and that.
Yeah.
And then it didn't work. And this is all night last night. Like
Hmm.
after you said no, dude, we have this. So I'm working with this, and so I would put in the CD to reinstall the thing. I had to look for the CDs. Basically, long story short, in order to get my stuff up and running, I can't tell you how many hours. Um, and it's all within a computer system.
Hmm.
For it to work. And finally, I got it to work. I haven't even tried recording
Hmm.
because it took all that time. But tonight or the next, I'm gonna focus on doing simple little steps so that I can dip my toes in that world just for the heck of it, with a different outlook, that years gives you.
It, it's kind of amazing. I've not done that with music. I've done that with other things. It's amazing how that kind of thing, fighting technology that should work,
Hmm.
suddenly got the hiccups. Don't know why. Fighting technology that should work.
Yeah,
It's amazing how much of a motivation killer that is.
that's the thing.
Because you might start up going, you know what? Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a cliche, but I'll say it anyway.
Yeah,
The muse is with me. Let me get into this. I'm feeling something up here. Let me sit down, and you try to do something and you can't get things to work,
yeah.
and it just kills the whole damn thing.
Yep, that's what happened. I was like, I said, I'm gonna do something, but in order to get to that, I had to do all this other stuff. By the time I was done,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I got it to work up till now, but now the original idea.
Is off in the ether somewhere. Yeah, I'm with you.
So it's like, but I will say, I did get a feeling
Mm-hmm.
of that little sort of dust of that sense of why not that's required for you to even attempt to do something like this, um, without it being just a drag.
Well,
So
I'm
I
glad to hear
got
you
the
say that.
vibe from, what's that?
I say I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah, I got a little sparkle, a little spark. But when I mean little, believe you me, I'm not over. I'm saying how it is,
Mm-hmm.
um, of a sense of something that used to be driving by sometime in the middle and just saying, "Hey, remember?" So there was that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's. I'm fixing to get modeling here. Yeah, Al's got to take off, and we need to land the plane. But you mentioned something just in passing a couple of weeks ago. You were talking about Kenny Loggins and that song "House on Pooh Corner." You mentioned it. Did we talk about that? Did I tell you a little bit about that story that I kind of looked into it? Because I don't remember Kenny Loggins's version. I remember the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band's version.
Kenny Loggins was Loggins in Messina's version, I think it was.
Um, yeah, but I don't remember that. I remember the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and I did a little bit of digging into it. And it's a funny story. I don't know if I ever told you about it or not. He originally started writing it. He was 17 years old. He was a high school senior.
Is that the original guy that wrote it?
Yes, Kenny Loggins wrote that song.
Oh, okay, okay.
And it was about it was he was kind of feeling it out, but he was a high school senior, and he was kind of stuck in that, and it's very young for this, a little bit of a nostalgic look about, he's kind of scared. He's fixing to go into adulthood. He's getting ready to graduate high school. Now what do I do? Now where am I going? I'm supposed to be an adult, but just a few years ago it was GI Joes and Tonka trucks, and a few years before that it was Winnie the Pooh. And that's where kind of the nexus of the song came from, was, back to the days of Christopher Robin, you know. And so fast forward a couple of years, he's 20, 19, 20, and he's got the song finished, but he was hanging around the Laurel Canyon crowd. And that was, Judy Collins lived over here and Stephen Stills was over there. And, you know, here's this band and these people, and they're all up and down Laurel Canyon. And the way he would shop around his songs was he would go to all these get togethers and parties, and he would listen and he would play. He had a job. He was earning $100 a week as a songwriter, but he saved a few for himself. He did songs for commercials and stuff like that. And he, one of the, I can't remember the guy's name to save my life. I think Jim McEwen or something like that from the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band came up. They said, "Hey, we want that song. We want that Winnie the Pooh song. We think we can do something with it. And he was like, okay, cool. We want to record it. Okay, cool. And they were fresh off of their recording of Mr. Bojangles that was real big back then. And so he was all excited. And a few weeks pass by, and he gets a call from the dude from Jim McEwen, I think is his name. Hey, we can't do that song. What? Yeah, we can't do that song. The Disney lawyers got a hold of our people and said, no, they own the copyrights, they own the trademark. We can't do that song. So he was just bummed, crestfallen over
So
this
he wrote
because
a song that Disney claimed rights over.
they claimed Winnie the Pooh is trademarked by Disney Corporation. You can't use that in your song.
So you can't sing about, like, let's say you want to sing a song about Michael Jackson, you can't use his name.
Well, it depends. If his estate has trademarked any of his stuff, you can't use it. But it goes on from there. So he had a date that night. He was bummed big time about this because, I mean, this was his big chance. One of his songs was going to be recorded by a group that was already famous. He picked up his girlfriend and, or the girl he was dating at the time. And she's like, well, what's the matter? You look kind of down. And so we told her the stories. Well, I had this song, you know, and Nitty Gritty Dirt Band was going to record it. Oh, cool. I said, yeah, but the Disney lawyers, they come down and they said, no, we can't do it. And she said, what? He said, yeah, the Disney lawyers said we can't do that. She says, Disney lawyers, let's go talk to daddy. And he, what? Yeah, take me back home. Let's go talk to daddy. So he took her home. She made him get his guitar out of the car, went back into the house, and she told her father what he had just said. He said, and this was in an interview here not too long ago, last year, I believe it was. He says, naive me, stupid me, did not know I was dating the daughter of the CEO of the Disney company.
Holy smoke.
So told him the story. She made him sit down on the couch and play the song. He thought it was a cute little song. Got up, went over to the phone, got a hold of the, yeah, this is such and such. That song about Winnie the Pooh, let him have it. And that was it. And they recorded the song, and it went crazy.
I didn't know that.
He said he had no clue that he was dating the daughter of the CEO of Disney.
Well, I got chills from that story.
To take it a step further, it all comes back around. There was a group, the oh my God, the Chambers Brothers. They made that Winnie the Pooh, Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, fuzzy little fluffy. Yep, they did that theme song. When the Tigger movie came out 2 years later, they got a hold of them, Disney did, and they got a hold of Kenny Loggins to get them together, and they wrote all of the music for the Tigger movie to include the soundtrack.
Incredible.
And his career was made from then on.
Well,
All because of that Back to Pooh corner.
dude, that was an excellent ending to this. It's got a nice bow tie to it.
And he's the only guy that I have ever heard of that's ever beaten the Disney lawyers. The right person, the right place at the right time.
All right. Let's do this. We go live every Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific Coast time, and we're spotted here every Tuesday at YouTube, Trampled Underfoot podcast on YouTube, and we have a site over on Facebook, Trampled Underfoot podcast on Facebook, as well as a website, trampledunderfootpodcast.com. We'll catch you here next week at the same time, and we're sponsored by
Harneal Media. your web solution. Thinking about getting a website to add legitimacy to your brand. You're thinking about a website because you want to get into this affiliate program and they say you have to have a website. Well, there's no better place to go than harneilmedia.com. There's a link to Harneil Media in the description of everything on this channel, and it's that way for a reason. He's very competitively priced. He will not give you a snow job. He will not try to tell you how you can live without something you really, really want. He will give you performance. He will give you results. He will not give you excuses. Check him out. Do yourself a favor. Head over to harneilmedia.com, hit that contact us button, and talk with Steve. He's ready to talk. He's ready to listen to you. That's Harneil Media, HARNEAL Media.com, sponsor of Trampled Underfoot Podcast.com.
All right, excellent. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed the show. I like the ending of it. We did go in nice little areas, but that was a nice story at the end. I had not heard before, and I think it's kind of. I hate to say that it's more than coincidence. It feels like it's more than coincidence, but whatever. We'll leave that to. In any case, be safe with the things you love, and we'll catch you next week. Peace.
Do what you feel. Keep both feet on the wheel. Peace.